I'm your host, Alex Schmitz, and with me here today is Kenneth McNulty.
Hello.
We have a new person on the podcast, Clara.
Hi, guys.
We have Marc the Shark Goldsmith.
Well, wait, hold on. Clara, what's your full name?
My name's Clara Heimberger.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Clara Heimberger.
High five.
Marc Goldsmith.
And Andrew Gleason. I actually know his.
He does know my name.
What's your middle name?
Impressive.
Middle name.
His middle name?
Joseph.
Joseph. Love it.
My middle name's Joseph, as a matter of
Look at
fact.
that. See?
Michael.
Who knew?
All right.
Guys, what is this? A middle name podcast?
It is now, Mark, because you made it.
Hey, it's a conversational
Your middle
podcast. Marc, come on.
Mark.
So yes, we are Shredded Cels. We are a part of Tech Heads, which is part of AVW Productions, a student production organization here at Ohio University. We do video content, lots of cool shows. I believe I said this was episode 12, and that was a lie. It's actually episode 11.
You're a liar.
So I'm sorry about that.
Alex,
Don't
liar pants,
Shattered.
Schmitz.
We lost all of our fans. You lied.
worry. All of our many fans.
Oh,
just
so
because
sad.
of one thing. It will be right in the iTunes.
You're not
so that's
sticking to
what's
canon.
most important. But in case you listened to last week's podcast, you know that today we're going to be talking about the Legend of Korra. We covered the first episode to the 7th episode of Korra last year. We were watching it as it was airing. And we wanted to talk about the last episodes, from episode 8 to episode 12, because there's just a lot of stuff that happened. We're all huge Korra fans, so we wanted to know.
Huge.
That's 4 episodes.
But first, why don't we see what animation we've watched since last time we were here, which was a week ago. Kenny, have you watched anything?
Yeah, I started watching Cowboy Bebop again, and I love it because Spike's awesome, and there's a corgi, and it's great. I've already watched it, but rewatching it is magical. And
Well, and you said you hadn't actually finished it.
I was close, yeah, but I haven't seen it all because Toonami stopped airing it for a while. But it's always on there, so I caught it when I was younger, and now I want to get myself some of that red eye so I can just kill everybody. But anyway, sorry. Continue.
That's just great.
I started watching this new anime. It came out recently called Book of Bantora, in which when you die, your soul gets turned into a book, and whoever reads the book reads your deepest desires, everything about your life. And there's the Library of Bantora versus the Church of Drowning in God's Grace. And it's pretty intense, and they're fighting over books and things.
That's really cool.
Yeah, sounds like a really interesting idea.
I've never heard of that one.
Same here.
I like it.
What about you, Marc?
I keep up with One Piece, so I saw the latest One Piece episode. And then I also... I was randomly forced to watch Summer Wars.
Do you love it?
Summer Wars
And
is good.
It's phenomenal. It's really, really good. I was really surprised.
What is it?
It's
Like in
essentially it's in the future where the internet is now this giant social media thing where everyone has their own personal avatar, and your avatar is essentially an extension of yourself. So if you are the manager of a water company and you have access to the water mains, your avatar also has access to the water mains.
Oh,
so
snap.
you can, from your computer, you can do your work from anywhere. So if you're at home, you can do stuff like that. And you can also buy most things online. The new internet is essentially called Oz.
Yeah.
And it's really, really interesting. And there's, at first it doesn't really sound like it, but later there's a lot of fighting and combat and that kind of thing. But it's not focused on it. It's more focused on
The
relationships and family and that kind of thing.
It makes me think of kind of like Dot Hack, but with more
Actually,
different.
that would be
It's really good.
That would be
Yeah.
a good one to do for this podcast. Because
I would like to.
I'd enjoy talking about it.
Yep.
Maybe
I could watch that. That sounds good.
This is a sidetrack, but last week we talked about Jeremy was pitching the fact that he wanted to do another terrible movie podcast.
He suggested Wizards of Ulysses or something like that.
I've heard that. I've heard Angel Beats, which is one of the how Matt talks about the triad of terribleness or whatever for anime.
I love Angel Beats.
Yeah, see,
Really?
I've
I
heard.
liked it. It could have had more. It had potential to be something really good, but it was too short.
I've heard Angel Beats was good. That's why I'm confused by that.
Wait,
That's interesting.
what's
love
one? What's a
Angel
Wizards
Beats.
one though? Like
I don't know. Jeremy, before I left the dorm, he literally just told me, "Oh yeah, suggest this."
he knows
So,
he's a guru with that.
guru of terrible
I don't
movies.
know. I may be wrong about that. It's definitely an anime that starts with Angel, but I know there's a good show called with Angel in the name, and then a terrible one. So maybe I'm thinking of the wrong show. But basically, he wanted to do terrible movie review, and when we did it last time, we did Sword for Truth, but we also talked about Ninja Scroll, which was a good movie. So maybe we can do sort of a double movie night like we did last, where we watch Summer Wars, a good movie, and
Yeah.
then watch a really terrible movie
I like
after
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be game for that. So we got a little sidetrack there. Andrew, what have you been watching?
Anime wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, or animation in general.
Yeah,
Animation
it could be
general.
cartoons.
I mean, I don't know. I've been getting back into Code Lyoko because that's finally on Netflix, and
I
I
miss
never
that
watched
show
the end
so
of it.
much.
Because I never watched the end of it, and I've been trying to finally get to the end
Oh
of that.
yeah. If you
So-
give me an idea,
Mhm.
we could sing the theme to that next time because I love that theme.
I have that
is a
on my
good
MP3
theme.
player. I listen to it all the time.
Yes.
Harmonize.
And that's actually
yeah.
English.
I do.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's a good show.
No, that is a good show. It's coming back at some point, I swear.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be like live action.
Yeah,
and-
Matt Lunn has talked about that. Apparently, it's going to be live action with animation, with the 3D animation for the computer world.
Maybe.
But he's a huge
Maybe.
Lyoko fan.
So is that like a movie or more of a show?
It's a show.
a
It's
show.
an actual TV
Because
show.
I kind of like the animation style.
do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
preferred it, but yeah,
I like
we'll
it.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll see what they do with it. What have I been watching? Not much. I've watched some like YouTube videos. I've been watching a lot of the slow mo guys. If you guys have ever seen
Yeah.
I
them.
love them.
Yeah, they're really good.
What?
They're basically guys that just shoot things in super slow mo.
Oh, yeah.
But
on
that
the
is
sounds
internet.
that is
fun.
not animation.
No, it
But
is
it's cool.
not.
It's cool.
So I guess I have not. Although I do want to rewatch some of Cowboy Bebop because Bebop is awesome.
And
yeah.
This is random, but I also have been watching a lot of regular show because I love regular show.
Yeah.
Is that really good? Because I see
Coffee.
the like
Yes.
I see the commercials for that.
It's
Is that
too
really
You
late.
watch it?
I do watch it.
Then I have a video to show you later.
Okay.
Nice. So sorry, is it Clara?
Clara.
Clara. Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So before we get into the discussion about the later episodes of Korra, I was
Clara.
about to say Clara.
Oh, this
I
is gonna
would
get
love that.
confusing.
I would love to be the main character.
It's late, guys. I'm sorry.
I would love to be
So
the
what
Avatar.
what were your opinions of like the first 7 episodes?
I thought the beginning was extremely rushed. As much as I loved it, I feel like they rushed a lot of the relationship stuff. They've all jam-packed it into one episode. And it makes me very sad that Bolin got friend-zoned so early on in the show because
Awful.
I know.
he is adorable, and I would choose him over Mako any day.
Any day.
Any day.
Bolin's like my favorite character.
He's my
Yeah,
favorite.
and then he drops out.
like he
Sucks.
loses all importance.
Yeah, he's just background funny guy, and I hated it.
Oh, he's so sad. But I enjoyed the first couple episodes, even though it was rather rushed.
He had some really awesome moments though. Like
He
I
did.
loved I think it was in that same episode where like it's that whole love triangle thing where he's set up for the final duel with the other earthbender and he just
Floors him?
he just floors
That
him.
was beautiful.
It was,
was-
awesome.
Oh, yeah, it was
Like
awesome.
I feel like he finally like got his moment to shine at that point. He wasn't like overshadowed by Mako anymore.
And
But
then-
then he just sunk back under Mako's shadow.
It's like they
But-
gave him this moment and he's done.
But here's the thing, I don't know why he went under Mako's shadow because Mako doesn't have any substance like
I don't like him.
whatsoever.
He's like paper.
I wouldn't say he doesn't have any substance. Like
I
He's got a
disagree.
scarf.
you have to admit that he does some pretty awesome stuff.
Hold on,
As
but
like a-
character-wise,
Character-wise,
personality.
He's pretty shallow.
He is very shallow.
I know.
he's.
I understand.
I don't
the
think.
arc
I don't
that
think
they
he's
got for him.
shallow. I think he's a jerk.
Jerk bender.
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
turned so quickly away. Like it seemed like back to Korra and stuff. It was just like bada boom, and then like left.
Like the thing is that a lot of ways that characters are made in like novels and shows and whatever kind of literature you're doing, people take like a kind of stereotypical type of character and then build from that. I feel as though they took the lone wolf silent type character but then didn't add anything to it. Like they just took the archetype and then just left him alone.
Yeah, he had
Like, do you know what I mean?
I'd say in the beginning though he had the most development from the episode when she first met him on. It had developed a bit, and then you're right after a while it plateaued. At least in my
The thing
opinion.
that I didn't really like specifically was when Korra finally confessed to him, he was like, no, I don't like you at all. But then magically by the end of the match, he was like, oh yeah, I totally like you now. I never saw in him that he had any like interest in Korra. She was a nuisance. She was annoying. She was just a friend. And then there was Asami who really he liked a lot. And then all of a sudden Korra confesses and he's like, oh, now I like you magically.
I think that the stuff that happens in episode 3, we talked about some of the cliche things that happened in that episode when we talked about it on the podcast. But it does sort of establish this relationship between them, even though, Mako's still sort of being a jerk to Korra, but there's obviously some romantic tension underneath that whole sort of chase to find Bolin and all that.
I never got the moment when Mako, there wasn't any, silent monologues that he had or anything like that when he was like, I really do like Korra.
She's pretty
I
neat.
really like her. It was just all of a sudden, hey, I like you now because you like me, and I'm going to totally just break my little brother's heart now.
That was
Okay, bye.
Oh, that was so sad.
Well,
Yeah.
I was more mad at Korra because she was the one who kind of
Kissed him in the
initiated
face.
that. Yeah, and then Bolin, he had
With the
flowers.
Yeah, that killed me.
Where are they getting the
that's
money
sad.
for these flowers?
All of the money was spent on those flowers. She
It
doesn't
was.
know.
That was like all
I
they
love
had.
him.
And then he
so
got
much.
food drunk, I think, because he was ate himself
Yeah.
and just died.
I forget who it was. I don't think it was Jeremy, but someone didn't like that. They thought it was stupid. I thought it was
funny.
hilarious. I thought it was
Yeah.
hilarious
It's
and
his way
really
of coping.
sad. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
not everyone drinks himself.
He food drinks.
Yeah, he just eats himself to
I don't
death.
think they can have
With
drinking at a
Pabu.
kids show. So.
Exactly. Oh, well,
I
yeah,
think that's what
exactly.
they were going for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, Clara, so you didn't like the relationship stuff, which
No.
I personally agree with. But what about the main plot with the equalists and all of that?
I thought that was really interesting because when I heard about the new series, I'm like, well, what are they going to do? She's already starting out with elements, so they're just going to focus on airbending. But then with the whole equalist movement, it brought in something that the original series didn't have at all. So I liked that a lot. And Amon was terrifying.
Yes.
I didn't like him. I didn't understand how he was doing the things he was doing.
Wizard.
Wizard, yes. But
Techno mage.
No.
That's one of the
But
theories.
Yes.
I really liked the whole equalist movement. Until we actually saw Amon, I thought they were kind of annoying, the people who sit on the streets and yell at you with microphones and things like that. But when Amon finally came out, it just kind of brought a whole new level to it of this guy is actually threatening. He's a threat, and Korra probably can't beat him, which was the really intense part for me.
Definitely.
It wasn't just a nuisance that she could just get out of her hair real quickly.
Right.
The electro gloves.
Oh, yeah.
Those were the best part.
Those are cheap. Those are cheap.
wanted
I like them, but they're cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
If only Jeremy were here. Sigh. Now, what about you?
Oh,
Andrew?
I liked it. I did. I liked the first few episodes. The Equalist, I find it really, really, really hard to hate somebody that's going for the Equalist movement. I'm because that sounds like an actually good cause. And in a world where you're either born with magical powers or you're not born with magical powers, and in the last series we saw a war caused by people with magical powers, I can understand where they're coming from.
Minds blow.
To be fair, the war wasn't all about benders. It
I
was
know.
benders and non-benders.
I know,
fighting.
but it was really the firebenders' fault.
Yeah.
And that was all that was.
Everything changed when
Most
the
of the
Fire Nation
soldiers.
attacked.
Exactly.
I can totally respect that. Maybe that's how we should
love
open a
that.
podcast. Do
Tailor it to us.
the narration. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
The main difference that I saw with the Equalists from at first kind of being sympathetic to kind of starting to hate them is it was kind of obvious that at one point they weren't just looking to be equal, but they also kind of wanted to kind of take over.
Wipe them.
This is
Yeah.
true, but this transitions very nicely into the first episode we'll be talking about, episode 8, which is the one where Tarlok. Spoilers, by the way, for all
Oh,
the
yeah,
episodes,
yeah.
in case you haven't seen it.
Ding ding.
That's the episode where Tarlok starts rounding up all of the non-benders and putting a curfew on them and takes them away, and Korra tries to stop him, but then he threatens her friends and her and everything. And that was the moment where, for me, it felt I see why the Equalists are doing what they do. Tarlok is feeding the fire, if you will, for this hatred of the benders.
So I'd hate to say it, but I can compare it almost to World War II in the fact what Hitler was starting to do. Because he's
It
controlling
wasn't quite
people.
that bad,
It wasn't.
but-
I mean, the
No.
earliest stages is what I'm saying. He's
Oh.
actually controlling everything, aspect of their lives,
Like the-
any state that's controlled.
The crystal knocked or whatever. Yeah. Crystal
Well, I'm not
knocked.
that
Oh,
bad. I'm
not
just saying
that bad.
controlling curfew, saying what they can do, where they can live and stuff. And I was like, well, this is getting scary.
Yeah, it is.
From the beginning, I knew Tarlok wasn't going to be a good guy. I didn't like him from the start.
You weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of
Like-
the things that annoyed me earlier was they made it so obvious
It was really obvious.
that he was some kind of bad guy because they zoom in on his face and he has that greasy smirk.
True.
Like,
But one of our primary theories was that maybe Tarlok could be Amon. For you two who weren't here, basically this was a theory I came up with way back at episode 4. because Tarlok had said that he was going to send ships to help Korra in case anything happened on the island where she was supposed to meet Amon, but then no ships showed up. So I thought that maybe he was either Amon or working with the Equalists in some way. And as it turns out, of course, he wasn't. He was just sort of this power-hungry, well-tensioned extremist sort of guy. But I did feel like if he was actually had any intelligence at all, he would realize that what he was doing there by corralling up the non-benders would just help him on rather than hinder him. And so it seems like since he's not an equalist, why was he doing that?
I think most of it was trying to get under Korra's skin, trying to get her to like mess up so that he could get her out of the way.
And he kind of like control her too.
Yeah, like provoking her by capturing her friends and things like that. I think he knew that she was going to confront him.
Yeah, that's smart.
But I don't know if everything went according to his plans. But
That's smart. Taking on the Avatar. Well, what is that? Has that ever been a good idea? I don't understand. If we have like a person who is designated the superhero of the world from birth, how do people be like, no, I'm going to take that person down?
Well,
In his defense, it worked for a while.
it did. A little bit,
I could
but still.
understand that because, well, number one, Korra wasn't a fully fledged Avatar, so she's a super strong fighter, but she's not quite, Kung Fu Action Jesus yet.
Not yet.
She gets there.
And then secondly, one thing that changed in Korra from the original show is that it introduced a lot more politics, like how Tarlok was able to capture her friends and be like, she's going to attack him, but he's like, oh, if you attack the police, of Republic City, I'm going to arrest you too, and so he's able to outmaneuver her in sort of the political maneuvering field, like when he corners her in episode 4 with all the reporters to force her to join his task force.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how he gets to her.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm like, I don't understand why people are like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, you saved the world a bunch of times, but I still hate you.
Right.
I don't understand where that comes from. Like,
Something like I was gonna say earlier, though you're talking about how we thought like Amon might have been Tarlok. I think the show did a good job of making you think that was him.
yeah,
That was the
I
whole
think
point.
I think they were like nudging you that way.
So that's why they made him look so evil. So you think it's him, then big twist at the end, and you're like, holy crap.
The problem I have with that is when they have the big twist, but it's not a character that you've known for a while. It's just kind of like, oh, it's this
too
character that
convenient.
you've never heard of and that you don't know. And it's like, oh, well, there goes any theory anyone ever had. Like,
Well, still,
you know what I mean?
It breaks stereotypes. Like it sticks to some, breaks some others, because you always expect someone to be the main enemy. But for once, it wasn't. But you're right; it could be inferred, because there actually was Chris pointed out at one point. He says in the beginning, "I had a brother once, but I lost him." Like this stuff, so you could have like inferred, what if his brother? I mean, it's really, really loose. But
Yeah.
he was so just, because I hate in series when the enemy, you're right, comes out of nowhere and there's no precedence, but they left just enough where you could have maybe possibly thought of it. I'm sure someone out there is like, I called it, but
Totally called
Well, I
that.
think
That
the
one
series
person.
could
Somebody
have like
called
clarified
everything.
that a little bit better if they didn't think it was gonna explode as it did, because they weren't expecting everyone to absolutely fall in love with it like they did. So that's why I think everything's so rushed and not very well put together.
I forget who it was. I believe it was Keith when on one of the podcasts last year. He thought for sure that Amon was somebody that we had met before, and I think he thought that it was a bender as well. Which was turned out to be half
Technically,
true
yeah.
at the
what
end of
was
the
Marc
day.
right about though? Like he was.
Well, I guess I'll just say it now. Whatever. You had said in one of the podcasts, I don't remember which one, about how it'd be cool to see Mako redirect lightning.
Oh,
which
yeah.
he does in episode 9 when he's fighting one of the mecha tanks.
Marc's
Which
a genius.
Well,
that
he
was
did
cool.
that for like a power plant job, didn't he? Wasn't that like
he
yeah.
did that
the
in the
thing?
job too, but that was an
And
action.
one
That was an
I
action.
totally forgot about
One
that.
thing that you said that was wrong, but was actually rather close to the truth, was you said something about thinking that maybe Amon was taking away bending by manipulating electricity in the brain. Because we were still thinking that maybe he was a firebender, maybe related to Zuko or Azula.
Wow, that's intense.
And it turned out not to be electricity, but it turned out to be blood bending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had this
Damn.
theory. Do you guys remember in the original Avatar series when Aang went to that guy on the air island and he taught him all about the chakras and things?
Oh,
Guru
yeah.
Patik, my favorite
Yes.
character.
I thought that guy
really?
had somehow learned about all the chakras and things like that and was blocking them. 'Cause
Guru
if you
Patik would
notice when
never.
Aang took away the Fire Lord's bending, he like touched his forehead and then touched his chest to block
Right,
the chakras.
right.
So I thought maybe he was doing something similar to that.
But I don't think, because what Ty Lee did in the original show and what the equalist soldiers do. They do the chi blocking. Where
pressure
they
point.
go.
Yeah.
They go at those points.
Yeah,
and
I
they're
thought
able
they
to
learned it from her.
the temporary
That
stop
makes
it.
sense.
That
Like-
another prediction. I thought that the Kyoshi warriors, who had been
Oh.
like taught this by Ty Lee, would end up being connected to the equalists, which
Yeah,
was
me
completely
too.
wrong.
Well,
They didn't tie in a lot of those actually. A lot of
Yeah,
stuff in the
yeah.
original series.
There were a few
that would have been a
Hey,
really good
cabbages.
idea, actually.
You're right.
Oh my god, I
Cabbage
love
Corp.
him.
That was
Not
funny.
my cabbage corp.
Cabbage corp.
That was perfect. I love that.
That was funny.
I was gonna go further with that thought, but I've
Cabbage
lost
Corp?
it. No, what came before?
Oh,
but
he's Cabbage corp.
back
Oh, the
to-
Kyoshi Warriors.
Kyoshi warriors, yeah, something about that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
But back
whatever.
to episode 8. One thing I really liked about it, although one thing that bothered me after episode 12 is that remember how they're like forming Team Avatar and they all want to go out and fight evil in the city, so they all pile on Naga, and then Naga can't support their weight and
Yeah.
falls, and so they go in the car instead. Then later on in episode 12, like Naga's carrying Bolin, Asami, and what's his name, Iroh, like all on her back, and she's fine.
It was a time of strife.
Like
It was.
I guess
It was the fourth person.
adrenaline
That was all
rush.
it was.
Hey, it makes you
I
feel any
suppose.
better.
It seems
Nobody
like-
else could do it. Nog was the only one that busted down their metal doors to save them.
I know.
Like in one
awesome.
hit.
That was another thing that bothered me about the last episode. I know we're skipping around here a bit, but it just seems like Naga's frees them from the cage and then takes out 3 mecha tanks in one blow. So why don't they bring her to every fight? Because she used to
Seriously.
kick
They didn't know
butt.
that.
I
Maybe
was
this
really
like
hoping
a-
that Bolin could all of a sudden magically learn how to metal bend and totally save the day and give
Oh,
him
you mean
another
like
level to
Toph
his
did
awesome.
at the
yeah.
end of season 2?
But no, he just
Well,
loses
like,
all of his importance
figured
after
that
the
out.
first
Yeah.
couple episodes.
Although I did kind of like when he destroyed the
Airfield?
road.
the road.
That was cool.
Yeah.
And then when he's coming back on Naga, he's like flinging the boulders at Asami's dad. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm just
Worst
upset.
dad of the year award.
Bolin stayed behind after the main thing though. He's like, I'll stay here and fight.
Actually,
I was
that's
like,
not
bye,
true.
Bolin.
One of the reasons why I like Bolin more than Sokka, I like Sokka a lot, and
Whoa.
I
Whoa,
like, hold
whoa,
on,
whoa,
hold
whoa.
on.
Whoa, Marc.
And I like his sarcasm, but Bolin is one of the only characters who is genuinely a kind person. If you look at all the other characters, everyone's either biting or they're working a little underhanded. Bolin's just a nice guy. That's it.
Well, so was Asami.
He's just like a kid.
No,
was just-
Asami is
man.
not
She wasn't-
just nice.
No.
But she wasn't backstabbing
No,
them like they all
she's
thought
not a
they were.
backstabber, but she
Stab- she
Hey,
helped-
I'm
hey.
so scared she's gonna turn on us. I'm so scared.
I
for
was
She
that.
really
didn't turn
afraid.
on
In my
them for her father. I think we're safe on that one.
The other nice character is Boomy. He is very nice.
Oh my god, I love him.
Yeah.
Wait,
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 awesome.
we met Boomy once.
I'm talking about King
still
Boomy
awesome.
and Boomy.
Oh, okay.
well,
Well,
we don't know if this Boomy, the new Boomy, is nice because we
So
only
far.
saw him yell,
He's still awesome.
That'd be awful. Knowing our
which makes me want to see more of him. But
he looks awesome.
I have a feeling he's gonna be a little energetic.
if we meet Boomy in the next season, he's gonna be my favorite character.
Actually,
I already know it. I already know
I
it.
think
Tenzin's
they've
my
said
favorite
that they're
character.
gonna
Tenzin's awesome.
go into
King
Kaya
Johnson.
and Boomy a bit more since they're Aang's
I need my
kids,
character to
so
get
we'll
back
learn
in.
a bit more about them. But what you were saying earlier, Clara, I'm sorry,
Close.
about Asami being evil. Somebody was talking about that. That was actually another theory our friend Matt Lunn had on the podcast. He was certain that Asami was evil even after she betrayed her father in episode 7, and went with them. And of course, it turns out she's not. I certainly think that there's a 99.9% chance that she's good. I suppose
Yeah.
it's possible that she could be evil, but
A seed of evil.
I could see it more as perhaps, because this thing, the season 2, for those who don't know, is supposed to be set 6 months after the events of Legend of Korra. And so maybe, she's still a little bit jealous of Korra, and that she ended up getting with Mako or whatever. And somebody's able to somehow manipulate her to do something bad through that jealousy. That's the only thing I could see her being corrupted.
What
Well,
I don't
then she would
like.
just screw over Mako, wouldn't she? I mean, she liked Korra kind of a little
Yeah,
bit.
she liked Korra in the
So
beginning.
maybe she should just screw over Mako, and I don't think anybody's gonna fight her on that or be like, whoa,
Seriously.
whoa.
Like, who honestly wanted Mako and her to end up together at the end? Because I didn't. at all.
Nobody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why'd
Nobody.
they do that?
Although I say that I've seen videos online of like people posting their reaction videos to the last episode, and they like there's a bunch of girls and they're screaming crazy when they kiss at the end. So some people must like
I
it.
don't
He's
like
like-
Makora at all. I
Makora.
don't like it. Well, no, there's a name for it.
I know.
Yeah.
There was-
Awesome.
No, there's a
I
name
want
for all of them.
Bakura.
I love Bora.
No,
Bora
that's
is
it.
Bora is my main ship.
thing
I
is
will go
that-
down with this ship.
The reason why I don't like Bolin and Korra is because after
deserves
that
better.
episode, yeah, she deserves better. Literally, because after
Wait,
that
you
episode,
mean he deserves
Yeah. He
better?
deserves better.
yeah,
Yeah.
You said she.
Oh, I apologize.
all
He
right.
deserves better
He
because
deserves so much better.
because she treated him like such crap. Where like she kissed Mako, even though like she and Bolin were
just
kind
went
of
on a
dating.
date. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
they were-
say.
And
Go
then
on,
Bolin's
dude.
like, "Oh, I have flowers." Okay, and he goes and cries, and then she comes back and she's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. We had fun, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess." And then like they
He's
were
so
fine.
forgiving though. That's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
about Bolin.
I was really surprised,
So-
and so I really just want him in the next season. This is what I want. I want him to have a girlfriend. Doesn't need to be a main character.
It should be
just
a girlfriend.
have a girlfriend and be happy. Like,
and kick face in the
Yeah.
fighting arena.
Yeah, that's it.
See, what's interesting about that is that, from what I've heard, the setup for this next season is that Mako is like on the police, like a captain of the police force.
Oh,
or
so he's
something.
Nightwing now.
Yes, he's Nightwing.
Oh my God.
And Korra is doing Avatar stuff. Sami is in control of Future Industries, and apparently Bolin is trying to create another pro bending team, but he's like having trouble finding
Yeah, I
people.
saw the clips about that.
And so
they
that makes
suck.
me think that it's gonna be like Bolin's gonna be unhappy, at least at first. But I hope that lets them maybe have a Bolin episode where he's like trying to find people for pro bending and he can't, and then something good happens to him, and maybe he meets somebody like that.
please tell me he's not going to be a punching bag.
No.
If
I'm
he
not-
does, I'll be
sad.
really.
I'm gonna
sad.
go throw out my prediction and say that since they've already crapped on him enough, he's gonna find people and they're gonna like stab him in the back or something, and we're gonna be all like, no, we love him.
do that.
You better get some
Also,
episodes
is
focused
the
on
Sami
him, though.
becoming Lex Luthor? Is that like the direction we're going in?
They're, like I said, I don't think she's gonna turn like maniacal genius evil sort of thing.
But then who's the next villain?
Well,
Exactly.
actually, they've talked about that a little bit too, because season 2 is supposed to be focused a lot on the spirit world,
Right.
and apparently there's some sort of spirit world monster that's
Yeah, and it
that's gonna
attacked
be
Korra.
that's the primary villain, which I think makes a lot of sense because if you think about it, based on what happens at the end, Korra is fully fledged Avatar, can energy bend, can go Avatar state, master of all 4 elements. She's pretty strong now. So it seems like she either needs to fight somebody who's equal to her on a human level or some sort of supernatural enemy.
I want the panda to come back.
Yes. I was gonna say, I wonder if the
Yes.
face changer will be back.
Ooh.
That Aang had to talk to.
That thing was
That
creepy.
was
I'm
really,
really hoping.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that thing.
All right, so we'll go back to episode 8 real quick so we can move on to the next episodes. But the thing I really loved about episode 8 was number one, well, we've already talked about some other elements of it that but the fight scene between Korra and Tarlok was awesome.
Oh
it
my
was
God.
short,
Agreed.
but it was intense. And then when Tarlok bloodbended her and it wasn't a full moon, and I was like genuinely like, holy crap, how did this happen?
I flipped my
Actually,
table.
that was my favorite fight of the whole series. Was her
Really?
and was that fight? I thought that was just
Yeah,
like
because she
so
thwomped
awesome.
him, and it felt so good, and,
And
then he
then-
just destroys her.
I
it's
remember
like, ah.
screaming no at my TV at like the top of my lungs.
Cool waterfall in his
What-
office. He's throwing the ice shards
Well,
at her.
my
and it's
favorite
so
part of that is when she hits him out of his office onto the ground,
Yes.
and then she jumps down and like punches the earth, and it like makes a big crater. It's like, whoa, she's pretty.
I
BA.
thought she was gonna
Yeah.
kill him for a second. I was like, oh my god, have mercy. And then he like breaks her, and I was like, kill him. Kill him
Actually,
again.
actually, that's funny because it's like Aang really struggled with that, but I'm like,
She did not.
she might actually do it. She might go all Wonder Woman on us and snap people's necks. So.
Well, that's the thing though. Aang would never pick a fight. She did. Like
Oh,
she
she
went
would.
and
Korra
picked a
picked
fight.
She's just more aggressive. I don't think she would ever kill anyone.
No.
No, see, but that makes sense though because Aang was raised by the monks and he was taught all peace and love and crap, but she's much more, and she's much more
Aggressive.
Aggressive.
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
I want to ask a question because I'm confused on this
Okay.
about the whole series.
All right.
Oh dang.
Why didn't she go into the Avatar state ever? Did they ever really
She
explain that?
couldn't. She wasn't good at.
But
She wasn't good
But
at.
I thought that they described that as like a reaction, like an involuntary reaction when they were
Now,
in mortal danger.
I think the reason that it's like that in the first
Is that because
show-
he mastered the spirit stuff already, or
I think that's it because as an air nomad, he was already at peace with himself. He could go into he understood the spirit world, this whole meditation thing. So it's easier for him to access that through emotion, whereas Korra, it takes her more to get there.
I know, but I thought that was like their like involuntary reaction when they were in mortal danger.
What I see is that she's a DNS server while like he had, like FiberWire kind of thing. Like he had better connection.
Yeah, I know he had better connection, but I don't know. I thought that's like, I remember that was being the description.
I guess the way to look at it is because he had such a good connection,
guess.
that's why it was voluntary.
Well,
Or
One
involuntary.
of my early theories about Korra was when because at the end of the first episode, Amon says, the line, "So the avatars arrived early. We must accelerate our plans."
That was so awesome.
And so I knew that Korra was essential to his plans in some way. So I thought that he was going to do something where he like kidnapped Bolin and Korra and Mako or some of her friends and like started torturing them in front of her to make her trigger Avatar state. Like
torture Mako.
and make her go crazy and like blow up part of the city.
That was an episode though of the Last Airbender, wasn't it? Where the general was like the Earthbender general.
Yeah,
and he's like,
trying to
I'll
make
force
her.
it out.
Yeah.
Made a
Yeah.
mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
Which turned it. But see, I thought he was going to use that and make Korra, like blow up a big part of the city, and then make everyone hate her and hate Benders and help his revolution.
See that
Which would have been extremely dark.
That would have been a good plan.
to be
though.
fair.
We'll never make you an enemy leader, Alex. This is gonna be bad.
No, but we should make him a writer on this show. This sounds fun.
Yeah.
I'd love that. Come on.
Come on, guys.
Dream
come
job.
on.
All right.
Like I thought that Korra was gonna go into Avatar state in the last episode. I was really
Yeah.
pumped for that,
That was like
but no.
every
Well,
season finale ever was he goes in the
They
Avatar
tease
thing,
that, I
but-
think, because they show a shot in the trailer, I remember beforehand, of Amon putting his fingers on her head. And I thought for sure, and it was like even a shot of like her closing her eyes. and
Right,
I thought she would
exactly.
open them and it'd be Avatar state
And
and
then
she'd
she
I
goes
thought she
kick
was
all
giving
kinds
up.
of butt.
But no.
Or,
But-
no, she wasn't.
Yeah. I will go on to episode 9 real quick, which was an episode that I personally loved just because we knew that we were going to get a flashback episode at some
Yes,
point.
yeah.
It had been hinted throughout. And then we finally got it. And it didn't deliver for me, at least on the like epic action, because I'd seen we'd seen clips of Avatar going or Aang going Avatar state, and I thought there might be like a big battle. There really wasn't. But just seeing the characters again and sort of getting this backstory about Yukon and Republic City, I just loved the whole thing they did with that.
I
that
wanted
was
to
cool.
see Katara. We didn't get to see her at all.
Yeah.
She was in the first episode. That's enough,
Yeah,
right?
well-
We didn't get to see Zuko either.
I want
Yeah.
to see Zuko.
Well,
wonder
we
if
have
he's still
some
alive.
character designs online now of Zuko
be.
and Katara, what they all look like when they were older.
Really?
Yeah, I found
have to
it.
find
online.
those.
I'm
It's like
sure-
official
Well,
drawings.
Well, Katara was in the first episode, and then we
Yeah,
got
but I
Sokka.
want to see her as an adult.
The second season, I'm guessing they might do that, like to have more into some background thing. I'm hoping at least.
I hope
I know they're
You're
going
right.
to Aang's kid,
I
so
want to see
the other
them. I
two.
want to see
Yeah.
I want to see baby Tenzin.
That would be hilarious. Just see him sulking in the corner,
Beard,
like
beard.
Yes, he still has the beard going on.
He's got the he's
a
got a little
full-grown
goatee.
beard the size of his body.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great. I love one of my favorite parts is how Toph still calls him Twinkle Toes, and he's like,
Yes.
or Toph, I'm a 42-year-old man. You can stop calling me that now. And she's like, oh, afraid not. Or
love
like how
Toph.
Sokka talks about his boomerang,
Boomerang,
or about Combustion Man.
Yeah.
And so even though they're older and obviously more serious, they
They
integrate
still-
parts of their character.
Which is they stuck to
Who's
it.
Lynn's dad? I want to know that.
No,
Yeah, that is.
Oh, you're right.
He was she was like hugged Smellerby right at the end of the
Yeah.
or it wasn't Smellerby, it was somebody
Well,
else.
it was that little guy when
Yeah.
they ran in Jet.
Yeah, one of Jet's
Oh
people.
yeah.
Jet's cronies.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
he was like the one guy that like totally killed in that series, and they
Oh, yeah.
like brushed that under the rug that they killed him.
No, I was gonna say one of the few things you ever see on screen. You see his feet. You see him kind of dead.
No,
No,
he's dead.
you see his whole body,
Yeah.
and they sort of hide it, and they even make fun of it in the parody episode with the
God.
theater.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, is Jet dead? It was a little vague.
Yeah,
I
They-
forget.
they poke fun at it.
How did he die again?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
They were in
Was it
the
Azula?
no, they were in the prison underneath
Earthbender.
Ba Sing Se, and they were fighting the Dai Li leader guy.
Yeah.
and Jet was finding the mind control that they had put over him, like the brainwashing, and he goes to try to attack the leader, and he like shoots a rock at his face, and you don't actually see like the rock hit him, and it cuts to just him on the ground. But then they actually do it in a cool way because like one of Jet's friends says, he's gonna be all right, we'll take care of him, you guys go ahead. And then as they're walking away, Toph says like he's lying, and you see Katara shed a tear, so it's hidden. But
Was that the
it's
episode
done
where
really well.
Longshot talked for the first time?
Yes.
'Cause I loved when he talked. That made me so happy for some reason.
I was just hoping they bring him back as a bionic man or something. We can make him better.
We have the technology.
Right.
Well, now they do.
Yeah. and
touche.
I also thought episode 9 was cool also because it not only did it have the awesome flashback, it had a lot of cool action with them going through like the Equalist base trying to find Korra, which was just an awesome, piece of action. And seeing, one thing I can appreciate about Mako, even though he obviously has a lot of negative qualities, is that he obviously cares for Korra a lot because when she was gone, he was obsessed with getting her back.
But he was still with Asami then, so that's
Yes.
he is the superhero of the world and one of the richest girls in the world, and he's like playing off both of them. I'm like, shut up. You don't have any room to complain about anything anymore.
Well, I mean, I think that was the episode when Asami was like, "Hey, Bolin, what's up with Mako
Yep,
and Korra?" And
that's the
he's
one.
like, well, they kissed once." Oops, I
Yeah.
said that out loud.
That was hilarious.
He's like, "Well, I'm over it. You should be over it."
Oh my god, yeah.
She gets mad, makes him like she sits in the front and lets them sit in the back. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
That was
yeah.
great.
Oh snap!
Oh my.
It's going down.
I love their car.
That
Oh,
thing
yeah,
is
yeah.
The
sweet.
car was cool. One part I actually loved was, I think it's in the next episode 10, when they're like going through the city as it's being attacked, and they find where Korra crashed the car like after she escaped Tarlok, and she's like, "What? I didn't know how to drive this thing. I can drive a polar bear dog." But
Surprisingly undamaged too. Wasn't as damaged as I thought it was gonna be.
No.
Unless
Yeah.
I
I
remember
mean,
it
like the
correctly.
front was a little dented, and Bolin's like, "Not so bad."
yeah, once again,
about
Bolin
that.
looking on the positive side of
That's
things.
what I love about him. He's
Right.
so
I know.
positive.
I think
Nicest guy.
I'm amazed. Like literally everyone we've had on the podcast talking about Korra hates Mako and loves Bolin.
Because he's awesome.
Yeah.
Like everyone.
Mako's a big fat
What
jerk.
What if they're
bender.
building that up
We're
for like a
Bolinians.
later
Good,
thing?
good
Oh,
guy Bolin.
I gotta believe they are.
I want to see them as babies. Bolin and
I want
Mako.
a flashback of
Bolin's
that.
just a little pudgy baby.
Just seem like
he
lifting
would be
rocks
so
around.
Yeah. Well, still one of my favorite parts of the series is when we see baby Korra, saying, "I'm the Avatar. You gotta deal with
prove
it," and then shooting
Oh,
all the
yeah.
elements
See,
out.
that's what I thought of too.
Yeah, she like, knocks down the door and like starts
Yes.
dishing stuff out.
This is a really random tangent, but I saw a comic online, and it was Korra with her parents when she was a kid. She goes, "Look what I can do! I can bend," and she shoots fire, and like she walks away, and like the dad is looking at the mom like, "Why is she bending fire?"
I suppose they don't go into that. Like, what's it like to be the parents of the Avatar?
You never see him
Because-
again.
They seem to be pretty proud.
Oh yeah, but at first, like when she first shows her ability to bend the other elements, you'd be like, although actually I think that's something that was unique about Korra, because if you remember, the reason they knew Aang was the Avatar was because he played with the toys, from the pile that corresponded with the previous Avatars, toys or whatever.
Yeah.
That was.
I think
done
Korra was
well.
unusual in that she could bend all three elements,
At, like, 3.
Yeah, from so early, which is part of the reason why she was struggled so much with airbending.
Uh-huh.
Well, still, like, I wonder. You don't see your parents at all afterwards, so I wonder how like that. I don't know. Just something cool to know about her
we
backstory.
see them in the 12th episode.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
they were in the
stand in
house.
there though.
Yeah, remember they go back to the South Pole.
Oh yeah, we only see him like twice then.
Yeah, well,
No,
that's not enough.
They're not exactly important characters.
Yeah, I know, but still,
They
it's like
should be.
They've already done their part.
The other part I wanted to talk about episode 9 is obviously we have the climactic conclusion where Tarlok's gonna take Korra away, and then Amon shows up and resists his blood bending and then steals Tarlok's.
That was the point where I was like, oh, he's got to be a bender. He's got to be some. I thought he might have been a bloodbender, but I kind of pushed that aside because I was like, that's really rare.
What's amazing is I didn't actually think of that. I thought that maybe it was either something where like, because I had thought that maybe he had gone to the spirit world, or like you said, or had done something with the chakras so that he knew how to energy bend, and somehow that gave him like such force of will that he was able to overcome the blood bending. But obviously, it didn't turn out that way.
He's a Green Lantern now.
I don't know. Like, I think maybe I was thinking more sci-fi, but I thought he made himself more machine than man or something, so he didn't have
Oh,
enough
now he's
blood to
Darth
be
Vader.
bended. Like I thought he was. Yes, I thought he actually had
Actually,
like
you know what?
steam-powered arms.
He looks more like Darth Vader too. I don't know.
He's got a mask.
Actually, see, it's funny. At that
And
point, the
Scarface.
only thing I was thinking, I'm like, what
Vader
did these
Scarface.
two have to do with each other? I'm like, this just pointed out to me. I'm like, these two have. This show keeps going on weird tangents, and they're like trying to avoid dealing with the equalist thing. They're like, oh, so first thing we have the tournament over here, and then they finally bring back the equalist thing, and then they're like, oh, now we have Tarlok over here, and then they go on that tangent for a few episodes, and I don't know. I'm like, I liked how they tied it all together at the end, but I was like,
Putting it together.
I don't.
a little slow.
It just
I
took
was
a while
all-
to get to
yeah,
that
yeah,
point.
But once they,
I think I would agree with that. Like, for me, where the show really starts picking up is episode 6,
yeah.
when they attack, the pro bending arena.
When
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Fire Nation attacked.
It was
No,
a
it
dark
wasn't
day.
the Fire Nation this time, though.
I just love how the
Exactly.
announcer, they walk into his booth. He's like, "It seems I'm being attacked," or something like that. Like, they-
I'm
Fly
about
me
to be
out.
electrocuted.
Blame me
That's
on
so
noodles.
Exactly. So I loved it when they got more into the equalist, thing. And then you're right, they sort of take a break from that for episodes 8 and 9 because that's more dealing with Tarlock, because after the events of episode 6 and 7, where Beifong loses her police force, basically,
that was
he gains more power and he's able to do more in the city. And he becomes a bigger threat to Korra, but then they introduce the Equalists again, and they take over the last 3 episodes, obviously.
Also, who doesn't like Beifong?
I love
awesome.
her so much. Oh my god.
She's
well,
awesome.
now that we're transitioning in episode 10,
Yeah.
that had the defining moment because
She
I'd
was a
like
hero.
I'd like Beifong before, but when she sacrifices herself and destroys the blimp, I was like,
epic.
That
Yeah.
lady is my hero.
That is the least.
In my defense, Toph did the same thing
forgot
with
about that.
Sokka.
well, that was one complaint I had in one of the other podcasts was that up to that point we had mostly seen just the metal benders throwing their little ropes around, doing the metal ropes thing, which is cool. But I wanted to see something like what Toph did, where she made metal armor and ripped it apart. And we got to see that in that episode when Lin just tears up that ship.
When they
Just
were
like
in
another.
the Future Industries, I cannot talk. When they're looking for Mr. Sato and she hit the ground with the bare foot, I thought that
Yes.
was awesome.
That was
yeah, that was
awesome.
It was
yeah,
a little
yeah, yeah.
nostalgic
Showed
moment.
the sonar sense.
And I was
Yes.
like, oh, Toph, you taught her well.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
I love the dynamic between Beifong and Tenzin.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yes.
this is the least irritating love triangle in this entire series.
It's true.
And
Something
I
bad.
love that.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite moments, I think it's when Lin is almost gonna be beat up by the Equalists, and the kids come and save him. I think it's
Yes.
Milo
That's
says
awesome.
And she's trying to
"Don't
stop
mess
him."
with my dad's ex-girlfriend"
I
or whatever.
think that was Janora.
Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right. That was.
But I
one
just
of
like
the-
how she keeps trying to stop them but can't. She's like, "Go back in, stop. All right, just keep going, be safe."
They kick butt though.
They
They,
do, they
save
do.
her.
All
They
of
were
them.
awesome.
They
That's-
kicked the crap out of
You and I
them.
debated this. I remember, how did they actually catch Tenzin and his family when they chased him
Yeah.
down? Somehow got them because what we thought is that maybe they threatened him with actual weaponry, like shooting harpoons into them or something. Because how did they stop a flying bison with one of the most powerful airbender, the most powerful airbender in the world?
I gotta believe that we saw the remaining ships go away after Lin sacrificed herself and all that. But I gotta believe that maybe Amon is just such a so smart that he had foreseen that and had a ship waiting for them.
Maybe like
and a
fighter
trap.
jets.
He's running a
Maybe-
Zanato's
I mean,
campaign
I think
planes
for
would be the
TV
best.
troopers.
We knew they had them, so maybe that was his first time using them.
They had bombs,
because they could go faster than the Sky Bison, I bet.
Yeah, but so he could take him out pretty easily with his air sight. I don't know. I'm just wondering how they actually caught him.
When I saw them, my stomach dropped. I was like,
know.
how? No, not the kids. No, not Tenzin. I freaked out.
Take the kids bending away. I was like, this is getting a little dark. Take
Yeah.
the children's bending
Yeah,
away.
I
Yeah,
think
so
it was starting to get dark there.
It's really funny because technically taking your bending away as a kid, you guys say it's dark. It just makes you a normal person. It doesn't really do anything
don't
to you.
know that.
But the thing though is that,
airbenders.
but because this is a kids show, I feel as though we almost translate taking your bending away as death.
losing your ability to
it's-
walk. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they can't. They have to be careful about showing death on screen since it is a kids show. So
Yeah,
that's how
exactly.
they get around
You're right,
it.
though. You're right.
Is that none of the characters actually die, but
No,
they get
actually,
their
Except,
that, no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
That was dark.
Most
For the
that
show.
I've been waiting to talk about that
No,
because that's
dude.
my favorite moment, bar none.
Actually, yeah.
I was gonna say
yeah,
the same
that
thing.
was
We all
awesome.
have-
I don't know.
Opinion.
I don't know if it's my favorite moment, but it definitely struck me hardcore. I'm watching the 12th episode, and I actually thought that maybe they were gonna go out and actually form a new life, sort of thing. And when I saw
Ooh.
Tarlok looking at the glove, I thought for a second he was gonna shock his brother
brother.
and
Right.
do that. But then he opens the cap and
Over
holds it
the
over
gas
the
tank.
And I was
Oh.
like,
We
no,
should go.
they're not.
I was like, yes.
We should just give all of our opinions because we all have a very distinct opinion about it. So we
Oh
should go
my
around
God.
and say what we think about the ending near the end.
All right.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Basically, okay, we'll save that for later, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think that's
Episode 10, it was basically a nonstop action episode. I was a little bit surprised, like how easily the Equalists, take out Republic City, because they take out the council members. The police force is completely inept against them.
Where are all the other benders? I know there's other benders in Republic City.
They're scared.
You
They're
know,
hiding under their
apparently.
beds.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That reminded me of like Star Wars Episode 3 when the storm when he walks into the Jedi Temple and he just like takes it over.
Well, in
It's
his
like
defense, the Empire's better, so
Yeah,
well,
I
it
mean,
makes sense.
it's better, but-
To be fair, that was, however many thousands of clones
this is-
versus 100 Jedi.
But these are people with force power, the force and lightsabers.
Well, they're all
It-
Padawans. There's only a few
it doesn't-
masters.
So it doesn't matter. It's still it's the same. Concept.
This isn't
yeah.
the Force Unleashed though, and that like the guy
Yeah.
can take out like millions
Screw
of
that
people at
game.
once.
Star Destroyer.
Whereas in the movies though, a Jedi like like when we see
Lifting
all
a
the Jedi,
lightsaber.
when we see all the Jedi Masters getting executed in Order 66, like
Yeah.
they get taken out like by it might
They
take
were-
5
that was
of them.
surprise, though.
But they
Yeah. Like Ayla Secura and Kei Mundi, they were sneak attack.
Yeah, sneak attack.
But
Sneak
anyway,
attack
sorry.
critical. Sorry, Star Wars tangent.
Well,
Anyway.
The Force was not strong with them.
That's what I said. It's one of those movies. Anyways,
It was really sad.
One thing I really did love about episode 10 was seeing we got to see Tenzin do some pretty awesome airbending.
I love
Yes.
Tenzin.
Like, yeah,
he's
He was
awesome.
able to fight. That was beautiful. I've wanted to see him fight the whole series, and he does. But seeing that there,
he
though,
did it in episode 7 a bit too. That's where we saw
Fighting
him
the
use
robots.
the air scooter.
That was
I
the
just-
best.
Seeing him fight was all. I
But-
love Tenzin. He's like my favorite character too. So seeing him fight is awesome.
Seeing him fight was awesome. That's where we saw Mako do the redirect lightning thing, which was awesome.
Mark's a genius.
Korra and Mako. Or I keep saying Mako. I mean Bolin. They were all doing well against those
face.
mecha tanks too.
I was actually afraid when they went on stage that they're gonna fail. Like in my heart, I felt like when they went up to stop and save everybody, I thought that a mom was just gonna kick their faces.
You're
in.
talking about episode 12.
Yeah, no, is that when they? Yeah, sorry, that's
Yeah.
way skipping ahead. My bad.
That's
I was still
okay.
thinking about them
We'll
being
get there.
captured.
Yeah, we'll spend a lot of time in episode 12 because there's a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah.
But I guess we'll move on to episode. Oh, well, the last thing we have to say about episode 10 is the teaser that they give us at the very end with Iroh and then him having Zuko's
Oh my
voice.
That
God,
really
yeah.
bothered me.
That was.
It,
Why does that
like-
bother you? It was awesome.
It doesn't fit his body at
It
all.
doesn't, but I mean, there really wasn't another way for them besides calling him like Zuko's son, General Iroh, and
But he's
like,
not Zuko's son. He's his grandson.
See,
well,
that's
like,
what
let's-
confused me.
General
whatever.
Iroh enough. Like when that knew it for me when he heard the voice, I was like, oh god. Because it's cool they tied that in, but it did not fit him at all.
If they had used Zuko's voice but changed the
Made him a
Made
bit
him sound
deeper.
older.
yeah,
Because he
made
sounded
it-
like a 14-year-old.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Like when I saw that, it was like, wow, that's a really cool homage to the original show.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I loved as a fan. But at the same time, like the more he talked, like it was like, yeah, this guy looks like he's in his 20s, and he's talking with the voice of a 15-year-old.
like it shocked me at first, but then I just kind of got used to it.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
it just kind of became
it
what
doesn't
it was.
ruin his character, but
No.
it does bother me.
I mean, after a while, you're right. That was really cool. I'm glad they tied that in.
Yeah.
I flipped. So
I love the name though. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense
Iroh,
that he
yeah,
would
that was
name him
cool.
his son. But I'm like,
Iroh.
why would the grandson be named Iroh? I'm like, I'm trying to think.
I don't know whose sons were or daughter.
I mean,
Well,
his son
or daughter,
obviously had to be named
He-
Iroh.
apparently-
Someone knew that.
His daughter's a Fire Lord
Yes,
now.
Yeah.
his daughter is apparently the Fire Lord now.
yeah, I know.
But who's his
but-
son? I can't remember. Doesn't he have one?
I don't know. They
Okay.
haven't
I'll
clarified that.
I hope they work with the Fire Lord.
Yeah,
I
that'd
hope
be
we get
cool.
to see
Yeah.
her
Well,
at least,
I
like all
hope,
the kids.
I hope to see her and to see Zuko
because he's still alive.
he's
He
still
might-
alive.
Oh, yeah, I
Is
forgot
he still
about
alive?
It was just like
Yeah.
Cool.
I have no idea. I've seen it on the like Avatar wiki a couple times. I don't know where their source is for that, but apparently it's
Sauce.
canon. Like the creators must have said it in some interview somewhere.
I just don't understand how. I understand it was a sneak attack, like hardcore, but how the Equalists destroyed the world's most powerful navy and army like so easily.
Mines.
That's true. Yeah, they mines and bombs. Never seen planes.
See, I
Sneak
could
attack
I could
critical.
understand the because now we're getting to the 2-part finale. I could understand how they did that in the first part because these are literally planes that have never existed before
That is true. I
now.
forgot about
They
the-
don't know how to
They are
defend
very
against it.
fast.
yeah, and they still did destroy all. He by himself took down like 7.
Iroh-
So.
Yeah,
That's because
Iroh's
he
awesome.
can't die.
He like flew with his hands. That was awesome.
That was
Look at your firebender.
Oh,
Now
he's
back
just
to
like
me.
his the Fire Lord at the end of the series because
Yeah.
he did that. I'm like,
Azula did it.
oh,
too.
she did.
He's
too.
got the power of Fire Lord.
Yeah. I really did like that part. I loved how they brought the bum back into the show with like his little city underneath the city.
We're all equal here.
Yes, all that was very cool. And then when Iroh sends the message to General Boomy, like that's the first time
Yes.
they had mentioned him. So I thought that was awesome.
Boomy.
And then we get the group that's going to the base, the airplane base, and then it did sort of bother me when Korra's like, no, I'm not going with you. I feel like I have to finish this, and it's like, what are you saying? Like, the Equalists have all of this power, they're like, they control the whole city now, and you just think you're gonna waltz in there and beat Amon, without any preparation at all, basically.
Hey man, she's got spirit.
Yeah.
Spirit's what counts.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got spunk.
It bothered me
She
a
got
bit.
chutzpah.
Here we go. She's got good AP.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then we get to where they meet Tarlok and the whole flashback with him. And I'll admit, when he said the line, that's because Amon is my brother, I was like,
Dun, dun,
damn.
dun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
it was like that. I was super surprised. But then as you think about it, it makes sense.
It
I
did.
was like, oh, that
I
makes perfect
felt
sense.
bad for Tarlok though. Hearing his backstory.
Yeah.
No,
why-
They make
It
him
does make
kinda
it more
sympathetic.
sympathetic.
Why would he take away his own brother's bending? That's what I was wondering.
Because Tarlok was attacking him.
Gotten away.
But it didn't affect him. Why would he care?
And
Because
I think
was-
it's, I don't know, we see that Amon, after he's beaten, he wants to sort of, he feels defeated, I think he loses some of his megalomaniac tendencies, and he's just sort of trying to, get the only family he has left and sort of start a new life, like be able to find some happiness since his plan in Republic City has fallen to pieces. But before then, he's still bent on, taking over the
domination.
city, and taking out all bending no matter what the cost.
But in the end, I think I still think he knew he was going to die. Because do you remember when he
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
it'll be like old times, and then like that
Teardrop.
single tear?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
why would he
that
cry?
scene.
Like if he
No,
knew,
he did.
No, you're right.
At that
that
point,
that does indicate that he
knew.
He knew.
I think
what
that
he
was because
doing.
he was a bloodbender and he could. I have a theory, like he could like see or feel Tarlok moving
You might be right,
because of
actually.
that,
That's
and
good.
so I think that's why. Because unless Tarlok was making a whole bunch of noise with that glove, which I think he was deliberately trying not to do that. But I mean,
Yeah.
One theory I had earlier on in this in the show was that that the flashback, when we flash back to Aang with Yakone, that was going to somehow tie into like the formation of the Equalists or have something to do with the start of that movement. That wasn't quite right, but
Indirectly, though.
But indirectly, Yakone, is directly connected to Amon.
And he's
Which I thought was pretty cool. His whole story about how he gets his face surgery and then goes and lives in the South Pole or wherever it is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's also the worst father ever. Yakone.
Yeah. So he wins
he's
first.
he's
no,
tied.
No.
I
He
think.
wins worst father of the year.
Yeah.
He took Darth Vader's
Well,
spot.
the thing is, like,
or
is he worse than
whoever had
Fire
that.
Lord Ozai though?
Ooh.
I don't know. He's pretty
Snap
bad.
crackle.
No, because Fire Lord Ozai at least loved one of his kids.
Yeah, I
He
guess.
didn't scorch Zuko's face.
But
true.
he loved his daughter,
And-
so that's
and to
something.
be
That's 'cause
fair-
she was
Yakone
crazy.
hated both of them, so
But he did banish Zuko.
he did banish Zuko.
Yeah, and to be fair, after
with
Amon, kicks his butt basically, and then
That
runs
was awesome.
off. He sort of calms down and is just sort of depressed. It doesn't seem like he's being a jerk to Tarlok.
It's because he like didn't care about Tarlok.
It did seem a little strange how apparently Tarlok wanted to. He was sort of fulfilling his father's dream of taking over Republic City, but he was doing it rather than as a crime lord. He was doing it as a as some guy on the inside, sort of rising to political power. But it seems like he would have wanted to, avoid his father's destiny since he hated his father. And he sort of says that at the end, but that still doesn't really justify why he was doing it in the first place.
I mean, the one thing I said before, I remember in the earlier podcast, is something that got me about the show is like all the things that were super rare are now epic. Like when it comes to bloodbending, like one person did like twice. Qatar did it once, but it was like one person. It was really hard to do, and now Yakone's lifting like 30 people in like a courtroom. Amon's taking doing his
no
thing.
moon.
Yeah, and they're just beasting things up. Then metal, lightning, everything is just everywhere now.
Well, they've also had a couple years to like perfect
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
so I
you're
think
right,
it
you're right.
became a lot more common. Like Toph started the school.
Yeah.
True, but they said how in that courtroom scene in the past how bloodbending was illegal.
Right.
I just mean bloodbending in general. Like those stuff I understand completely, but bloodbending is so powerful now without the moon. And Yakone is the only one I guess that knows how to do that and taught his son. So I guess that makes.
I think it must have been something.
It's like in the blood.
yeah, something
Yeah.
biological.
Well,
Blood.
bending is
yeah,
biological. so-
metachlorians.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing that was
Right.
I thought that was interesting about the whole revelation that Amon is a bloodbender, because up to that point I had thought that Amon was energy bending all of these benders, but the
Which
fact
would
that
be
he
even more
is
intense.
the fact that he's bloodbending them, I don't really know how that works, how that correlates to
Apparently it works.
stopping bending, but it does imply that bending is biological.
He
Oh,
could,
it is biological because it's hereditary.
Yeah, like he could cut
Because
off. Guys.
Aang gives birth to the only airbender in the world, and he was the last airbender, hence title.
Right.
He could like cut off the physical with the spiritual thing, like cutting off some. He must know how to cut it off somehow. Because you're right. How did he learn how to cut off bending? He never taught. The Cone didn't teach him that.
Right. Well, I was thinking like, they talk about how for firebenders, like lung control is really important. So I wonder if they have like, flame resistant, more powerful lungs, to deal with the fact that they have this fire inside of them or whatever.
Because firebenders are the only ones who use something completely theirs. Like all
Right.
the other benders use the resources around them, but firebending is straight from them.
Right.
It is,
Awesome,
it is
too.
awesome.
I love it. That is awesome. Well, I just want to go back real quick because I forgot something about when at the end of episode 10 when Lynn gets her bending taken away. Like that was such a sad scene.
So sad.
I was sitting there just no.
No.
And she's like, like defying him to the end sort of thing. And then in episode 11, we see that lineup of like just a row of
That was awful.
Of benders gonna be, getting their bending taken away by a mon. That really made me think of like, Hitler-esque.
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Because that
things.
thing when that was
There's-
happening, I was thinking that made me feel bad. Like that means like most of the benders from Public City are gone. Like this is permanent, obviously. Later on we figure out it's not, but still, I was like, oh my gosh, he's even in the series from now on, they're gonna be like hundreds of less benders. And I was like, oh my god, he actually won, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was starting to win.
All right.
thing is, like, why take over Republic City?
It's the capital of the world. It's like a symbol.
Exactly.
You can
I
take
mean, like,
that.
there's so many benders all over the world.
But if you can,
Yeah, that's a
it's like
symbol.
I can take over New York. You're gonna be scared of that, aren't you?
Yeah,
I guess.
they never really do
as long as you stay in
explain.
New York.
Not that I'm saying that
You're
New
right,
York,
you're right,
not that
though.
I'm saying
Everybody
New
else
York
can
is the capital of the world or anything.
Yeah.
They never do explain like exactly how numerous the Equalists are, because at first it seems like they're just sort of like a smaller, terrorist cell or something. But they're fighting these entire armies, so they must have
Well-funded.
hundreds, even thousands of people.
Yeah, because one thing I want to see, and I really hope they tie in the second. I want to see Bossing say like how it's changed
I
because
do
that was the
too.
best.
Oh.
That'd be cool. That's the biggest city until
Well,
Public City.
That's what I never got. I'm like, why is the South Pole still like this small, dinky little tribal village when the rest of the world's like all
It wasn't
ready?
as dinky as it was before. Like you
It's-
see that
it's
big compound where Korra
slightly
lives.
less dinky.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's no cities.
I think that's part of the whole water tribe thing because they're so far removed from everyone
But
else.
the
They-
Northern Water Tribe had the big,
Oh, that was
grand old
awesome,
city,
though. Yeah.
and
Toy
I'm sure
fish.
that's huge now. So
Well, honestly we haven't seen the entire South
I
Pole.
know.
Maybe
we
they do
haven't-
have
we
a
haven't left
capital.
Republic City, so we never got to see anything
That's
else.
something that's actually a little bit interesting is because the creators specifically said that they wanted it all to be in Republic City at first, but apparently in season 2 it's going to be like half Republic City and half other places, both places we've seen before, like
That's
Bossing
cool. So they're gonna revisit
and as well as new places.
so they have to go to the Fire Lord at this point. They've got to at least go to the main Fire
I'd
Island.
love
like
to
being
see
like,
that.
hey, what's up, lady?
What's up? She'd be like, hey, what's up, Avatar?
You think that's how it's going to be?
What's up, girl?
It's gonna be
It's gonna happen,
exactly
just
how it
like
happens.
All right, so now we move on to the most interesting and perhaps controversial episode of them all, the final episode. And I will say, I mean, looking at the final episode, I can understand it and reconcile it with myself a lot more, knowing the fact that they thought they only had 12 episodes and this was going to be a mini series and this
Yeah.
would be
Yes.
the end.
That's what I
Yes.
was keeping in mind. That's why I felt so rushed. But now they have so much time. Like if they knew they'd have 2 seasons, they would have done it differently. I know they
I'm
would've.
I'm
I
almost
would have been
positive.
so excited for the second season if they had
Oh.
known that, because they would have really gotten into her character.
They may not even
her
gotten rid of,
struggle,
like-
and that would have been so awesome.
Yeah, and Amon may not even like. I didn't think would have happened.
That's like gold mine for drama.
Oh yeah, because they could have carried him over if they knew.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm kind of
I
happy.
like his ending.
Yeah, I like his ending, and also the problem I found with Amon, I really liked him as a character, and he was a really good villain, but I felt as though he was almost too powerful.
Oh, he was overpowered
yeah.
as crap.
He was ridiculous.
And that kind of bothered me because literally until probably episode 11, 12, probably like even, probably
no signs of weakness.
11, 12, there's no sign of Korra even coming close to being able to beat him.
Yeah.
Right.
Even in episode 12, she like kind of loses to him, and then she randomly gets airbending and beats
That's
him.
the
Yeah,
other
exactly.
thing.
she really doesn't even beat him. They kind of like
He
He kind of beats himself.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, what got me, I like this for a fact. Like, I mean, quick Dark Knight, if anybody's, Dark Knight Rises. One thing I liked about it is, sorry, spoilers, everybody hears it, but, Batman loses a lot to Bane. That's why I like when characters, like, I don't like it, they win one battle and the enemy runs off. Like, classic. I like it when they lose a lot. But you're right. It was, at the end, I was irritated.
Like Luffy from One Piece, for example.
Oh, Luffy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you a One Piece fan?
I've seen a couple episodes.
Okay.
I stopped watching around when they were in the desert and
Yes.
Alabasta.
yeah.
But I'm just saying, though, I am, like, I was kind of, like, at the end, I was kind of irritated that even, you're right, she didn't even technically beat him.
Well, yeah, I sort of had a similar feeling for Marc, not just with Amon, but basically with the Equalists in general, because like, especially after episode 11, you sort of had this hope that this, wave of Navy ships was going to be able to help save Republic City, and nope, the Equalists take them out. So it seems like there's no hope. Our heroes have had very little success against them throughout this whole thing, and then all of a sudden, Iroh takes out, a few of their planes. And Bolin and Asami, take out some of the mecha tanks, and Korra and Mako expose, Amon. And then suddenly the entire infrastructure that they've built up just falls apart, and Bumi's able to waltz in there, no problemo.
Well, probably Iroh's ships got rid of most of the bombs.
They
so.
lived, like, not all of his ships
They
died.
threw most of them
But
themselves
like, remember in episode 6, there were all those metal bending police ships and things like around the arena. And then when Korra comes outside onto the roof to fight with the Equalists, they're all blown up. Like, it looks like the Equalists just took them out with no effort at all.
Well,
so it seems like they've got to have like a numerous amount of people.
You have to see, they probably infiltrated some organizations. Because that's the thing, an Equalist could be anybody.
That is one thing I did like about episode 10, because you see like, a guy is just a janitor, and then he like takes out one of the lightning gloves and like, shocks somebody. And that is a very scary.
Look at that in Batman too. When they
exactly.
Did
that's right. I mean, that's
he's
why.
just Bane. That's all.
He's Bane.
He's just Bane.
Thistle.
So I think what we're saying here is that Christopher Nolan took notes from Korra for Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
I can believe
Exactly.
I
shared.
could live with that.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, totally.
I did love, like when they confront Amon, and they're talking to him, and they reveal, that he is this Noah Tuck guy. And then, but when Amon, revealed his face, I was sort of like, because the scar looked realistic.
Yeah, I was shocked for a
I was
second.
like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was all a lie.
It did throw a little bit of confusion at me. But then, like you said earlier, when we see Tenzin and his family rise out of the ground, I was like genuinely surprised, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I thought they weren't going to beat him on when they went on stage because, they've lost every single fight. So I was like, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose their bending. But she managed to get them in the middle of the fray.
Yeah, well, that's because, once Tenzin came out, he did some air bending, and that
Wiped
blew
the floor,
Amon
yeah.
away.
Literally. Anyways.
And unfortunately, I didn't actually get to watch the 12th episode when it aired, the finale. We were out of town or something, so we had DVR'd it.
When it aired.
You're so punny.
Oh,
Boom.
this is where we've come to in this podcast, have we?
Yes, it is.
Is this like a montage? Like last
Oh
time?
my gosh! I remember when Kenny made that joke,
I didn't mean
and
to.
he didn't mean to, and I pointed it out, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, that is one of my favorite moments from that podcast. But what I was saying is, oh jeez, I've sort of lost my train of thought a little bit.
Broke it, Mark.
Thank you. But when we get, I hadn't seen it, and I looked on like IGN or something, and I happened to be glance at the comments accidentally for Korra, and I saw somebody say something about Korra losing her bending, and so I went into that episode sort of had an inkling that might actually happen, which I thought was inconceivable. And then when it did happen, I was like, wow, they actually went there.
Oh, yeah.
I was pretty surprised.
That whole thing was really convenient, too, because then all of a sudden she's like, I know airbending, and then started doing it, and Mom's like, what? And then he started like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna go if he won, except for she got Deus Ex Machina to victory. So
Yeah. But I did feel really good when she knocked him out of the window, though. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
that was cool.
Yeah.
Even though the random airbending was random,
Yes.
but it was really, really awesome.
Oh, no, it was
It
epic.
was.
But
It was epic.
I wanted her to go into Avatar State at that time.
that would have been so much better.
That's what I expected. But no.
I loved seeing when Mako, did the lightning thing and actually landed a blow on
Yeah.
Amon. I thought that was actually a really cool moment for him.
I was about to say the only thing I really like Mako did was that, because she couldn't even touch him. Korra did not even touch him. The first person to hit him was him. And then his lieutenants came in, and then he pretty much killed them.
Yeah, I did like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
how the lieutenant was pissed off.
He's
you
like,
know.
I have a mustache. And then he broke his face.
His heart was broken forever.
But
It was. He's like, what?
I just sort of feel like with that episode in general, like you bring up the fact that her getting the airbending there is a Deus Ex Machina, and it is. I just sort of feel like the creators of the show were either could have done it in a more realistic way that made sense within the logic they had built up in the show. Maybe made the Equalist a little bit more difficult to defeat. Not have her get airbending spontaneously, not having her suddenly be able to go into the avatar state, and learn energy bending and all this. But they did that just because they felt like they had to conclude it, and because they wanted. I mean, if they were trying to make the most epic episode possible, and they succeeded, because each of those moments I was sort of questioning in the back of my head, but my immediate reaction was, "Oh my gosh, this is so awesome!"
exactly.
Her getting the energy thing at the very end
Yeah.
is really cool. And in my head, even though you could say it was kind of random, I think it made sense because I like the way Aang said it, where you are closest spiritually
It's like-
when you are at your most
Like your lowest point.
Yeah,
Your
it
lowest
was like
point.
when we were at our lowest point, we were open to the most change.
Yep.
That's what
yeah.
he said.
So-
I really
Oh.
like that.
And it was
line.
awesome how
nice.
he walked in the end. I love
Yeah.
that.
Oh god, it was like you see the feet, and I'm like, that's not Tenzin.
That was awesome.
Twinkle toes.
Yeah, I mean, and we've already covered, I did like how, I'm complaining about how they didn't really beat the Equalists. Like earlier on the show, I had sort of said that the enemy seemed so powerful, and I would have liked to see them do a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood sort of thing. For those who have seen that show, where there's one point in the show where the villains seem unstoppable. They've completely defeated the enemy, the heroes. It seems like, but then the heroes sort of build up this force and come up with a plan that counteracts the enemy's plan, and then they go into action and they actually stand a chance. Whereas in this, it's sort of a thing where it's just Korra, Bolin, Mako, Asami, and Iroh, and that's literally it. And yet they're able to defeat the Equalists. But I did like that, the reason that they were able to do it, I guess the only way you can really explain it is that the Equalist's sort of spirit was just broken when they realized that Amon was a bender and that the scar was a fake and that he was basically a liar.
Yeah, like where you remember you had the point. Where did they all go? There's all those tanks and every garrison the city, and it's like, where did they go? I thought they go into a fanatic rampage and start killing everybody, but
Yeah,
that's not how the show was.
Like I was
You
talking
don't
to
kill an avatar.
I was talking to Kenny the other day. Like, even if it's in one of the first episodes of season 2, if they just have a throwaway line that says, "Oh yes, remember when the Equalists all surrendered? After Amon was exposed. Even something like that. It'll make me buy it a little bit more. I just want some sort of explanation.
because there's so many guys left in the city.
Well, that
So
could be
many.
like a remnant problem that they could start with. That could be like Mako's big beginning arc is
Like
them-
apprehending Rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
To at least tie that off a little bit.
I mean,
One thing I thought after they beat Amon and everything seems sort of hunky dory except for the fact, oh wait, Korra's lost 3 of her elements, and I actually thought that maybe they were gonna go in the direction of the next season would be her just with airbending, and she's going on this journey to try to get her bending back. And I feel like if they had more time, if they knew they had more time, when they were making the show, maybe they would have gone in that direction.
Wouldn't that have just been Last Airbender then? Because he started off with just airbending.
Well, I don't even mean with her retraining, retraining to learn
Or
the
like
other
going
3
on a
elements.
quest to figure out how to reverse this sort of crap.
Yes, something like that. Like that could have been her reason for trying to go to the spirit world to connect herself with the avatar state and help her solve this problem. Instead, it just sort of happens.
Yeah.
You
She
know.
could go through all the angsty issues of, oh, I'm the avatar, but I only know airbending.
maybe.
I'm the avatar.
I wouldn't like that because I hate
But
whiny
you know that's the
characters.
direction they
Yeah.
would have gone in, though. 'Cause
Yeah,
she would have
exactly.
been whiny.
I must say, since we're talking about this whole thing, when we get the part with Aang, and he heals her, and we see like all the past avatars
That
lined
was
up
cool.
behind him,
That was awesome.
and then she goes Avatar State and bends all 4 elements, and the music, like the main theme, is playing, and it was like that was
epic.
awesome.
And
was
Mako was
really-
conveniently there.
Of course.
Oh, hey, you
And then they
bending
get the
stuff.
kiss. Oh.
Barf. That huge like punch in the face of Cannon right at the end there. Didn't need that.
Yeah.
To transition from something terrible to something awesome, the death of Tarlok and
Amon.
Amon or whatever. Yeah, or Noatak.
Noatak.
That's it.
Yes.
Like my favorite part. Okay, so I love the imagery of him slowly putting his hand over the gas tank,
he
and then
says, it will just be like the good old days or whatever. And
yeah,
then the single
and,
tear.
and then
Such a-
explodes. That
such a
like
great
I
scene.
literally, I was watching it on TV, so I couldn't pause it. But or no, I don't know. But like I just sat there for a second and I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Well, like, sorry, I'll let you talk here in a second, Andrew.
go-
But
no,
the original show, went to some pretty dark places, with like when Firelord is like burning down like this huge swath of land, or when Aang nearly dies at the end of season 2. But that moment in Korra was like this, the show had already been pretty darn dark, for a kid's show up to that point. But that was a moment where it's like, how did they get this past the censors?
I
Like,
think
I
they'd actually
really
do
would
it.
like to know.
Like I thought they were gonna stop and not show anything, but they showed it. They showed it explode, so you knew it happened.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't theorize it because I don't think it's true, but just something I think that would be an amazing plot twist. I think they just show the boat. They don't show them in the boat.
No,
you know
I was
what I'm
thinking the same
saying?
thing. Amon
Okay.
making it.
You know how you said that Amon had that one tear and that maybe he knew because he could feel
Tarlok?
Tarlok
doing
doing,
it.
Yeah.
it. What if Amon bloodbended him, got out of the boat, and then made him
well,
do it?
that was actually
I don't-
something.
Like I'm just saying, like
I told you
because
that
that could be a
Yeah,
plot twist
'cause
where he comes back.
I thought that as a possibility because there's 2 ways you can read it. You can either read it that he knows what Tarlok's doing. He's just sort of sad, but he accepts it. Or he's sad because his brother's trying to betray him, and then he turns around and stops him because, like you say, we don't. Something they always say about character deaths in fiction is that until you see a body, you can't know for sure.
Even then.
I thought the same thing. Though.
Depends on the show. If it's
I'm
heroes,
I'm a comic book fan.
They could.
People come back from way worse deaths.
Oh
than
yeah,
that.
comics books are a mess.
Like up until that point, I was like, "Oh my god, I hate Tarlok. He can just go die right now." And then he actually does die, and I'm like, "I never thought I would have Tarlok feels, but now I have Tarlok feels, and I'm sad now."
Because Mark, I was like talking to Alex actually, and I said the same thing you did. But then I thought I don't think they go to that lengths. And in my opinion, I honestly think that he accepted it because after everything that happened, how he failed, he was like proved what could he do. There's nothing left for him.
I think so also, but like imagine everyone freaking out
Oh,
if he came back next season. Everyone would just be like, "What? How did that happen?"
I want
know.
Tarlok to come back if anyone.
See, I don't want that
No.
though, because it takes away such a good ending.
Yeah,
for
again,
him.
Yeah.
It was.
like I said, I don't want it to happen. I
Yeah.
don't think
But
that
if it
happened,
did.
but it's a possibility because you technically don't see anything. But the imagery of him putting his hand over the gas tank and then it exploding, that was really, really cool.
You gotta
Made me
hand it to
very
him.
sad.
No, I agree with you. It's a possibility if they wanted to do it, but I don't think they will, and I don't want them to because, like we said earlier, like when we see Tarlok defeated and he's explaining his backstory, he's still a jerk, but you get some feeling for him. At least he's changed his ways, and he's telling her, don't worry about me. Go beat Amon. He's a monster.
He's a monster.
He's a mom.
I didn't even mean to do that.
So many jokes.
And
All
then,
Amons.
and then when he sacrifices himself, it's sort of like even a jerk like Tarlok, who's been a real, I don't want to say the word, over the course of the series.
Butthole.
Yes, a butthole. the mature word.
You gotta think though.
What a
Tarlok,
poop.
He didn't even have to kill Amon. They could have literally gone down their own thing, and Amon probably wouldn't have done much. I mean, he didn't have to actually kill both.
He didn't have to, but
It was
that,
symbolic,
that,
though, I got
that
it.
helped redeem his character for me. He had his crowning moment of awesomeness.
No, I
as
loved
they
it. I'm
say.
glad they didn't. But I'm saying, like, honestly, he didn't have to.
I'm not saying he had
And-
to. We just said it was a good ending.
And
Yeah,
then,
no, I loved it.
And then I did like, at the end of the episode, like we see her, heal Lynn.
That was
so we
the
sort
best.
of
That was great.
we sort of know that she's gonna heal all the people who lost their bending, in Republic City.
Most
At-
tedious job ever.
This
Yeah,
is
just
true.
say, like, all right,
Well,
next.
But next.
What happens if
next.
somebody goes up and doesn't have bedding? He's like, I was just kidding. I don't have bedding at all.
Korra just punches him in the face. It's not wasting my time. But I loved it at the very end after that when Tenzin says, "Yeah, thank you, Avatar Korra," and the music cue comes up.
Yeah.
and that was cool. So
Beauty.
yeah, so love. I mean, my personal feelings about season 1 in general. I'm not prepared to say anything about it compared to the original as of yet. My sort of theory is that I want to wait until, because apparently they're going to do 4 seasons worth. So I'm waiting until they get done with episode 52, whatever the last one is. And then at that point, we'll have a comparable amount of episodes to the 61 of the original. Because I don't think it's fair to compare 12 episodes of Korra that we have right now to the 61 episodes we have of Avatar.
You can compare first seasons, though.
Well, yeah, I guess you could.
ol-
But even the first season of Avatar is 20 episodes, so you get 8
You're right,
more
you're right.
episodes of character building.
The only thing that I will say that as of now I like better in the new season, in the new show, is the tone.
Yeah.
I love the
good.
darker, more
Yes.
adult tone.
No,
I love that.
I definitely like that. I love how, Amano is this actually, competent villain. Unlike the Fire Lord, who we've said several times was kind of stupid when you really think about it. He was just powerful.
I'm the
He's
Phoenix
basic-
King.
See, I always thought he was basically Sauron, because Sauron's like from Lord of the Rings. He's like the overbearing.
Dude, a guy cut his
villain.
fingers off in one.
And yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but he's
Sildur's
the,
like,
but Sauron in Lord of the Rings is supposed to be the overbearing evil villain that's
He was
all
like
like
the apprentice of a
omnipresent.
god.
And yeah, he was. But and then that's what the Fire Lord was. He was just like this presence.
It's almost like a figurehead. They're not even that
there.
powerful.
Well, that's they sort of established that because they never show his face until the beginning of season 3. So he's just sort of this figure, like he's the final boss for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But it's never actually reality until those last few episodes of
And
the
it
show.
was epic. And
Like I was
Of course
scared
it
of
was
him,
epic.
like until Aang took his bending away, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy,
Well, I
he's
mean-
actually strong.
Well, of course he is.
that last fight, I was afraid when like the red came over. I was like, no way. And there was like,
And then it just
That
goes
was
back.
awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Then he goes to jail.
So yeah, but I do believe though that Korra, based on this first season, Korra, I definitely think has the potential to be better than Avatar. Like, think about it, because if you think about like what Avatar looked like in season 1 versus what it looked like in season 3, think about when we're on season 4 of Korra, how good the animation's gonna be. Like, it's gonna be ridiculous.
homie, insane.
And now that they have, now like I criticize the show for feeling too conclusive, because they only knew they had 12 episodes at the time. Now that they know they have more, they could end season 2 on a big cliffhanger
And make
and
us
then
angry.
come back to it in season 3 if they wanted to. They can do more narrative, larger scale things.
I hope that in season 2 they do more kind of episodes where they're just chilling out and character development.
Yeah.
Because
Like the beach scene.
that's literally one of the best episodes.
I love that
is
episode.
is
yeah.
where
I like that
they're all
one.
just going to the beach. Yeah.
Zuko.
Well, yeah, that's I rewatched that episode basically just for the scene near the end where they're all talking about their problems, and then Zuko has his whole speech, about like his life, basically.
Yeah, his
I-
life is
I
a
love
big
that.
problem.
yeah.
And I love Korra, for the animation, the fights, the darker storytelling. The one glaring flaw it has, besides the plot problems I had with episode 12, is the fact that we've talked on already, that the relationships really aren't very well developed.
They're convenient because it's what like everything was supposed to be in the end. Because I figured that Mako and her were gonna end up no matter what, and I was like, just how's it gonna happen? So
Yeah, and that's not the most well developed. Like you said, I think that the love triangle between Tenzin's wife, and Lin was far more interesting than Korra, Mako, and Asami.
well, you never know. They might disband it somehow in the next series. Because if they just stay together the whole time, that'd be boring.
That would be so
Well, they'll
boring.
have
Those guys-
relationship problems.
Yeah,
I'm
they'll have
sure.
problems. I want Asami and Bolin to get together.
No.
I can't see it.
I have there's a thing there because they're both like.
I really don't
nicer
like
characters.
Asami very much. Like,
I
it's
liked
not
her.
that she's a jerk or anything. She's just sort of, bleh. She
I
doesn't have much of a personality.
See, I always liked her because I'm like.
That's why she fits so well with Mako.
Because she was like,
Yes.
for once, a character that's like, oh, you stole my boyfriend, but I don't hate you for it. I hate him for it because he's the jerk.
Jerkbender.
Yeah.
Right. Jerk
She thought about it logically. She didn't hate Korra. She hated Mako for leaving her for Korra. And I'm like, richest girl in the world, superhero of the world.
Yeah.
That's not like an easy choice, but screw you because you get to make that choice.
Yeah.
Right. Let's think. Let's just go around the table real quick. Andrew, what did you think of season 1 overall?
It was awesome. I loved it.
All right, Mark.
Like I said, really liked the dark tone. The animation was phenomenal. Some of the fight scenes were awesome. Random fight scene that we didn't talk about, but that's because it was more close to the early in the series. When I think Korra was fighting the lieutenant on the top of the dome.
Oh,
Yeah, that's episode 6.
That was awesome.
That's still one of my favorite fight sequences in the whole show.
Yeah, so that was one of the first fights where I saw it and I was like, whoa, like that really kicked it up a notch. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do in the
Honestly,
future.
like looking back on it, one of my favorite episodes is the first episode because I know we had some problems with it, when we were first talking about it. But I've rewatched it a lot, and like I love the fight between her and the firebenders she's training with. I love it when she kicks the butt of all the gang members. Yeah, and just it is a great intro to the series, and it connects to the original, with like the mention of Zuko's mom
Which
and all
I'm still
these.
angry about.
Yes.
So angry.
Yeah.
It seems like with that they have to explain it at some
They
point.
will.
Well,
That's got time.
She said it was an interesting story. Korra did, or not, Katara, sorry. She's like,
Sorry.
We had this problem last
Did you say
year.
it? Yeah.
they have
Kenneth.
they have 3 more seasons.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, second season, I'm hoping when she visits her, she's like, let me tell you a story. My fault.
It's never gonna happen. I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think they were going to
I
go
was
with
crying.
that.
if they go, I mean, we feel like we're gonna meet Zuko at some point. Maybe that's where we learn about it.
Maybe,
Yeah.
He's
maybe
gonna
it
be
ties into the current plot anyway, so
Yeah.
we could tie it back together.
Clara, what was your opinion on season 1?
I loved it very much. As much as I don't like how rushed it was, I understand why it was rushed, and I loved Amon as a villain. Like, I remember when he came out of the water, and I was like, oh no, he's hot. And it's like, I can't hate you now. I can't hate you because you're really attractive. Oh no, you're hot.
I think you're the only one in this room who had that reaction.
Well,
Yeah,
I
Really
would
now?
assume so.
we all were
Mark,
thinking a
you're
little
so-
bit. Come on.
Like, really,
God, I
I was
gotta
like,
fan
I
myself.
was surprised that they made him not extremely hideous. I was happy that they didn't make him really, really ugly.
Yeah.
But like,
Too easy to hate.
yeah, too
Right.
easy to hate. But like, I loved him as a villain, and I loved how his backstory was tragic, and it made a lot of sense to like why he became what he is, and it wasn't just like him acting irrationally. I just loved his evilness as a whole, and it was a great villain. But like, when I first heard about Korra and I watched the previews and stuff, I was like, she's really cocky. I'm not gonna like her. She's
like
like a
that.
rule breaker.
Yeah.
And she's not like Aang. She doesn't like. She's not the same.
Well,
I didn't want her to
that
be
was-
like Aang, but
Actually, something we talked about in like the first 2 episodes, which was the first podcast we did on Korra. Jeremy especially was kind of mad at Korra because she was a jerk. She doesn't listen to Tenzin. She deliberately disobeys his orders,
Right.
and so she does sort of have this attitude. We thought maybe if she continued with that, she'd sort of be a jerk and a rebel, and we really wouldn't like that. But I think she develops over time.
right. I liked how they made her out to be. My first impression was that she was gonna be this total rebel who didn't do anything. She was asked, and she was gonna get beaten a whole lot because of it. But I'm glad she didn't turn out exactly like that. She is still really, really headstrong, but she wasn't exactly how I thought she was gonna be, and I'm glad that didn't happen.
I agree.
I love the series so much.
Kenny, what was your opinions of season 1?
Well, I thought it was cool beans. I really liked it. I was really impressed because I like it's kind of steampunky, and I like that future, and it gave the whole side of the non-benders because the first series didn't do that as much, and I like that because I'm like, what would they do? And it was really cool because you saw they'd make an equalist movement. That makes sense. So I agree with you. Like they should at least have equal kind of standing. So yeah, it was cool beans. But the one thing I would like to see, the only disappointment I ever had, is I was hoping Amon was somehow part of the lineage of the Cabbage Man getting revenge in the Avatar long last. I was really hoping he's like, this is for my great grandfather.
somebody mentioned that in I think it was in episode 5 or 6, in their review. It was IGN. It was a review of it, and at the very bottom, it was like, and I totally want him on to be Cabbage Guy's son.
That's what I'm saying.
Which was before we saw Cabbage Corp. In episode 7.
But the best part of that episode for me is in the beginning, even in the intro, I'm thinking
wonder where the cabbage guy is. I want to see the cabbage
gotta be
guy again. And then
somewhere.
he was in the episode, and I freaked out. I was so happy.
You called it, yeah. I like the series. That's really good.
Yeah. I want to just touch on a few of the predictions we made last year in the podcast. We've talked about a number of them. Some of the more interesting ones. Early on, we were discussing about how some of us thought that the Equalists wouldn't actually turn out to be the real villains. Like they thought, I think it was Jeremy and somebody else, but they thought that there was going to be a facade, a facade, I should say, for somebody else. That they were going to be villainous, but they weren't the main villains, which really didn't.
It's like Jesse and James and Giovanni.
Whereas I sort of countered that by saying that I thought they'd be the main villains, but they'd have some justification for what they did, which turned out to be true.
Yeah, they did.
What else here? Kenneth theorized that Yakon is the firebender that attacked Amon,
I was wrong.
which didn't end up
I
happening.
was really wrong.
Yes,
But he did attack him on kind of.
Kind of.
Very
Yes.
indirectly.
pretty much. I mentioned here we all hated Mako Korra from the start, which is very true.
We stuck to it.
Hate.
Yeah, I had thought that maybe Asami and Mako would stay together so Korra would get together with Bolin like later on, which failed miserably.
Too hopeful.
Obviously. Marc, actually, like you've said before, but you actually said on a podcast last year, you wanted Bolin to get with somebody before the end of the season.
Sorry, Mark. I'm so sorry.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
Yes. Keith was certain at one point that Amon was a bender that we'd already met, thought he might be a firebender related to Zuko, which a lot of people said, thought he was Azula's son, or that he was related to the Fire Nation family in some way.
Who would Azula
Yeah, 'cause she
be with? She was in jail.
Yeah.
She might have gotten out.
I don't want her to get out.
Yeah, seriously, she's
Probably
been
wants
locked
to
up
get out.
forever.
Rotted in jail.
She's mentally insane.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
She was developing schizophrenia near the end, wasn't she?
Oh, she was crazy.
she was
That
messed
was that was dark.
hallucinations.
messed up.
And then when they defeated her, though.
Yeah,
One of those
and
fights.
I had theorized that we would visit a non-bending slum sort of place and see why benders were so hated. We didn't quite get that, but we did sort of see the non-benders being persecuted,
Yeah.
which is somewhat similar.
We did see a slums, but it was the slums where everyone was getting together.
That's true.
And didn't hate each
the
other.
happy
Slums.
slums.
They were equalists.
Happy slums.
Slums.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was.
It was okay. They happy.
Yay, slums.
All right, so I think we've had a really nice conversation on this particular episode. So I think for next time, we did a podcast last week and we did one this week, and we're usually a bi-weekly podcast. So I think maybe we'll go back to that format. So we have 2 weeks in which to at some point get together. And I think it would be good to watch Summer Wars as well as a bad movie. Because I think if we just do the bad movie, then I'm not sure if that can fill a whole podcast.
Yeah,
Just
we
on
could definitely
ranting.
talk a lot about Summer Wars. That's a good movie. So if we watch that
Yeah.
along with some random bad movie that we'll watch, if people hear us talking about it and they think it's funny, you guys can watch it at a later date. I don't think people will care about us spoiling a bad movie.
I just remembered. Okay, I said earlier that was Angel Beats, and that's wrong. That's the good anime. I think it's called Angel Cop or Angel Cops, something like that.
Yeah,
That's
you're
That sounds like
I've
it would
heard
be
that.
bad.
that's the really bad
sounds
one.
like a bad
So
movie.
Angel Beats is good. I
Love
apologize for what I said earlier.
So
I forgive
I don't
you.
know. Why don't we do Summer Wars and Angel Cops?
yeah, if we can find it, because
If we can find it. Yeah.
It'd have.
Okay.
I think it was Gretchen last week who pitched this, and the other people on the podcast didn't seem to like it, but I would totally be game for it. She said maybe doing one of the Sailor Moon movies, which I would totally love to watch and make fun of.
Wow.
And
We'll see.
there's also there's actually a movie at the library. It's not anime, it's animation, but it was made a few years after Roger Rabbit. It's that whole live action mixed with animation.
Oh, I think it's like Cool Town or something.
called- I've
Or
seen
Cool
that
City.
movie.
Cool City.
No, it's
I've
cool.
seen it.
Cool World. I looked it up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Funny fact: it has a 3% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Dude, it's so bad.
So that would be a good.
What is it
terrible.
funny bad? Like
My roommate
I-
watched it. It's just awful, disturbing, and just not something I enjoyed.
oh, okay. I don't even know if I want to watch it.
well, but that's what Sword for Truth was, though. Like at
no,
points.
but that was funny.
the
That
whole
was
time-
funny.
The people can only get to the real world when real people go into the cartoon world. And all these cartoon girls are trying to get with this real guy. Like, we want to go in the real world, and he's like, "Go away." It's so
Okay,
bad.
the reason why Sword for Truth was funny though is because at one point the main villain is wearing corpses,
the corpses
as
of his
as clothes.
enemies.
just for fun.
Delicious.
Like he throws one person
Bet he
over as
smells
like
nice.
a scarf, like just ties around his neck, and then just starts.
How does he tie a person?
Eventually, he has
the
a
bones
shirt.
out.
Eventually, he has like a shirt and like shorts of just like
Just
people.
walking around in the city like that?
No, he's fighting.
Oh,
he's
okay.
fighting.
I thought you said he's just
That
walking
doesn't
around.
actually that doesn't
Gear.
make it any better. I don't think that's like
That
real
wouldn't be
flexible
very good
fighting
armor at
material.
all.
Yeah, no, it was. That's why I mean, like, it was hilariously bad.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably worse than this movie.
Yeah, so Cool World is an option, but maybe it's the bad kind of movie instead of the
Jeremy
funny
had
bad.
one,
So
the
for-
wizard one.
The wizard one?
What was the thing that Jeremy
Oh.
was talking about?
Wizards of Ulysses or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
see.
But basically, for those of you listening, we're definitely going to do Summer Wars, and then we'll just decide on a random bad movie, and we will let you know what we thought of this bad movie and whether you should just steer clear of it, or maybe it's so bad that it's hilarious.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you all very much for being on this podcast with me. You can email us at techheads@avwproductions.com. You can follow us on Twitter at techheadsou. I know we were tweeting about the Apple event yesterday with the iPhone 5 and all that.
And Nintendo.
We were doing that as well. Yeah, there's some cool news that came out of that. You can find us on YouTube at AVW Media. What else? You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, especially this one.
Our blog.
Yes, we've got a blog. It's avwproductions.com/web blog, but just say avwproductions.com. You'll find it. Don't worry. You should rate and review us on iTunes. If you'd like it, give us a nice rating. We enjoy that.
Yay.
Very good. And so we've prepared a special ending for you. Kenneth has a solo song that he's gonna sing.
I can sing really
but,
well.
But I have to go set it up. So you guys need to fill time for 30 seconds here.
30
Bum,
seconds.
bum, 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 bum,
No, no,
bum,
no,
bum,
no,
bum.
no,
You guys
no,
supposed to be
no,
talking
no,
in
no,
the
no, no.
background.
I don't
Oh,
know.
Wait, favorite characters?
Favorite
The
character.
announcer from
I
Korra.
love
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Tonight, he's my favorite.
You do it so well.
Yeah,
Do it,
yeah.
do it.
Come on.
I don't really do
it.
that well.
Talk.
That's the thing. Like I don't
Do
want to
it.
say like
Do it. You do it so well.
Wait,
tonight. Kenneth McNulty will be singing the song ending of Soul Eater. I don't know what it's called, but he's pretty good at it, and that's a line. Marc is the dashingly handsome one who has a wonderful voice.
Thank you.
No problem. And I guess after the series, when I got shocked, I disappeared for a while. So you'll see me again in season 2 to watch Bolin's fights. Tune in. Oh, this sounds weird.
All right. Yes. Now we're gonna be getting to the song here in just a moment.
This is embarrassing at all.
So you guys can look forward to this. This will be the end of the show.
I hope my mom's proud of me. This is why I'm in college.
She's
will
so
be.
proud of you.
I'll tell her to listen.
And here we go.
くず星きらめく夢の星さ I wanna be 行こうぜ行こうぜ行こうぜ
We'll see you guys next time.
Tune in,
Bye.
Space Cowboys.
This product is copyright AVW Productions 2012.